Welcome back, players. I'm Jack with 36 Cancel, and this is Coco the Weiss Cat, and today we have a deck tech for a top 8 deck. Yeah, it's a lot less special than it sounds. If you look at the leaderboards for Weiss Shores, you can find just about any set making top 8, which is one reason Weiss is so fun. But the deck we're teching today is one in particular that I personally top 8'd with at White Plains. I've been playing this deck for about a year, and I've done pretty well with it. It's won a few shop challenges, and in the regionals I've attended, it's taken me pretty far. I've considered it my serious business deck for a long time, and it's none other than Standby SAO. So Standby is a mechanic that's newer to the English meta. It's the second climax trigger for Red, which in English only had Door until a while ago, and it's the only climax that triggers when you play it during your climax phase. So how does it work? Well, when you trigger a Standby climax, you can choose up to one character in your waiting room whose level is equal to X plus 1, where X is your current level, and you can put them on any position of your stage as rest. So if I'm level 1 and I trigger a Standby climax, I can take a level 2, like this Lisbeth, and put her on my stage as rest. And when you play the climax to your climax zone, you just perform the Standby trigger action. Seems pretty good, right? Well, there's a trade-off. A climax with the Standby icon doesn't add any additional soul, power, or perform extra effects like giving you stock or drawing you cards. Now, you may think, well, that's okay, I get to early play something for free. But keep in mind, when you're running 4 of these in your deck, half your climaxes aren't helping you deal more damage to reverse characters, and that can really slow you down over time. And of course, it takes the place of many other possible climax combos. This is why in newer sets with Standby like No Game No Life, Fate Apocrypha, and Bang Dream, Standby isn't as popular as the main builds. But this deck is called Standby SAO, and that's because SAO, hands down, has some of the most unfair targets to stand by, and one of the best combos with its climax. So this deck, instead of playing like a conventional deck with a level 1 combo to gain advantage through searches or top checking, has a level 0 combo with Standby and a level 3 combo to finish. It gains advantage by putting things on the stage that are super hard to deal with for its opponent and creating a really unfair stage. Some SAO decks incorporate Standby in smaller ways, but still play the conventional level 1 combos and rely on other finishers. But this deck is kind of the OG Standby deck, with a few modifications of course. So without further ado, we're going to jump right into it. The deck, as you can see, is kind of top heavy, and expensive in the stock department. It's not as top heavy as Konosuba, but seriously, what is? If you're playing Standby, you absolutely want targets to hit if you trigger a climax, so naturally, you want plenty of juicy stuff. But let's talk about the level 0 that supports the bottom of this top heavy pyramid, because it's a pretty different and interesting toolbox, and there's no better place to start than Close Call Silica. This is your level 0 that climax combos with Heinous Trap, which is the deck's Standby climax. When she comes in, you can look at the top card and leave it there or put it into your waiting room, and then, when you play Heinous Trap, you can bounce it to your hand and reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a character, you can add it to your hand. So there's a lot to unpack here. First, this is the deck's primary advantage combo, at level 0, and we can start doing this from turn 1 if we have red in our clock. When you play 2 of these to the stage, you can potentially add 2 cards to your hand and still have the Silicas to use for your next combo, and of course, every time you replay them, they top check again. Seems really good. But why do they bounce? Well, remember, Close Call Silica combos with Heinous Trap, which is a Standby climax, so by bouncing her when you play the climax, you give yourself an open slot on the stage to bring back your Standby target. It's the perfect setup. Because the Standby trigger and Silica's auto ability both happen when you play the climax, you can choose the order they resolve in. You can even resolve one Silica, then do the Standby trigger, and then resolve another Silica trigger. All the ways you can use this card make for some pretty interesting and pretty busted plays, and this is pretty much what you're doing until the end game. Just stand by and add cards to your hand as much as humanly possible, but of course, you need a kit built around this unique combo since it's pretty unlike a lot of more conventional strats in Weiss. So what else are we running? Well, there are a few standard tools. First, we have Temporary Alliance Kirito. He's a 2k mill runner that appears in almost every SAO deck. He's good, and he clocks for blue. Let's move on. Next, we have Time to Get Serious Kirito. Now this guy is another catch-all tool for many SAO decks out there, but he's especially important here in our Standby deck. When this dude comes in, he gets plus 1500 power until the end of turn, and when he reverses his battle opponent, you can choose one of your other avatar or net characters, rest it, and move it to an open position of your backstage. Again, there's a lot to unpack with this guy. Primarily, because you can choose any other avatar or net character, it means that you can use it to save any reversed character on your stage. If you attack with a tiny level 0 like a Brainstormer and get reversed, and then use Kirito to reverse a battle opponent, you can take that reversed Brainstormer and move it back to the backstage as rest. It means you can attack and generate stock without having to incur the risk of losing characters, and since you can move characters to the back row, Serious Business Kirito will let you do things like bring your Brainstormers and back row characters up to apply pressure and then pull them back to safety. Heck, he can even save a level 3 character if he finds a reverse. And what's more, he can do it on your opponent's turn. So why is this especially important to us? Well, Close Call Silica takes 4 of our level 0 slots, but we don't exactly want to attack with her. Unless, of course, we can make sure she's around for when we play Heinous Trap. What makes Kirito good is that he gives you more opportunities to attack and apply pressure, and he especially helps us here, in a place where we're running a lot of valuable level 0s. Next up, we've got May Close Asuna. Unlike Serious Business Kirito, she's a fairly uncommon addition to any given SAO deck. She's actually a promo from Ordinal Scale. She's a 2500 level 0 that has an auto ability. When this card attacks, you can put a card from your hand into the waiting room. If you do, you can choose another avatar or net character and return it to your hand. So there are a lot of benefits here, and a lot of them are similar to Serious Business Kirito. You can use May Close Asuna to save characters that are reversed or that you attack with and don't want to leave in the center stage. You can also use May Close Asuna to get extra mileage out of come into play abilities like Close Call Silica's Top Check and Serious Business Kirito's Power Boost. But you do have to pitch a card. Ordinarily, this will be so-so, but in Standby, getting targets into your waiting room is a big part of your game plan. May Close Asuna gives us a free discard outlet that we can use to put our standby targets in the bin so that when we do trigger our traps, we can bring them to the stage. Since the deck also plays pans, we can use her to discard climaxes we don't need in our hand to help us filter our options. And like I said, many characters in the deck have come into play abilities that Asuna can help us reuse. May Close Asuna is a neat card that really found her niche in this standby deck. She was a later addition I made to the deck after about 7 months of playing it, and I have to tell you, she's really come through. So if you're building an SAO standby deck, I'd give her some serious consideration. Now what we have left in this level 0 lineup is some utility. For its Brainstormer, we have After the Battle Kirito. It's the Draw 2 Pitch 1 Brainstormer from Re-Edit. Again, this is a great way to pitch standby targets. And since we want to play standby as much as possible, having more opportunities to draw into Heinous Trap is always good. After the Battle Kirito is a great Brainstormer, and he's virtually made for this deck. Now believe it or not, he actually has some more utility for us than that, but we'll see that later. The only card left in this package now is Sister Fawn of her brother Lifa. Fun fact, she's currently the most expensive level 0 in English at the time of this video's production. So why is she so costly? Because she's nothing short of amazing. First, when you play a climax, you can pay 1 and top check 4 to add 1 without discarding, so that's pretty good. And once per turn, when you use an act ability, you can give one of your characters plus 1k. So she adds a card to your hand and also makes your backups and brainstorms super money. Soft Incest Lifa is the backbone of many good SAO decks now, but she's only a one-of in this build because unfortunately, the back row in this deck is super tight. You're often competing with the Brainstormers, Close Call Silicas, moving cards from Serious Business Kiritos, and of course, standby targets since you often want to put them on your backstage. So it's tough to find room for her sometimes. For me, she's in here for the matchups where she really shines, but I found that when I was playing more of her, she was really hindering my ability to control my stage flow. Even after a year of testing, I'm still unsure if I should take her out completely or add more of her, so this is one I'd encourage you players to test for yourself. But that's the end of our level 0. Now we can check out the level 1. So what's on the table for us to stand by? Well, our first course is On Guard Silica. She's a 1/1/6k that as long as we have 2 or more other characters, gets plus 1.5k and Hand Encore. So she's just a big body with Encore, similar to Sasha from Attack on Titan, but SAO has so many amazing level 1s, so why are we running something a little more on the generic side? Well, 2 reasons. 1, having a 7500 out on the stage at level 0, which, reminder, can happen in this deck, is one of the most threatening things you can do in this game. And 2, because she has Hand Encore, you can keep her around and use her as a soft discard outlet for standby targets. And of course, when you can put her on the stage without paying a stock, she becomes one of the best level 1s in the game. Man, playing standby really changes the game, doesn't it? Also, she happens to be red, so she's a staple for many standby decks. Now, also at level 1, we have Silica's IRL form, After Party Keiko. This is a level 1 reverser that, on play, has the ability to salvage a character if you pitch a climax. Keiko gives us some much needed hand control and another discard outlet for stray climaxes. And of course, being a level 1 reverser, she helps take care of a lot of more problematic cards like Aaron or Prinz. Now keep in mind, if we use May Close Asuna or Time to Get Serious Kirito with her, we can reuse these handy abilities. It's pretty good for this deck, and she makes a great addition to our toolbox. Now lastly, at level 1 we have a backup. It's a 1/1/2k backup that, if all of your characters are avatar or net, lets you top stock to pay for itself. Now instead of this backup, we could play a very similar 1/0 backup that does the same thing, but many standby decks choose to play this one to pick out climaxes from their stock, help thin their deck, and also for the soul trigger since standby likes to apply pressure in any way it can. And adding soul for us is important because keep in mind, Heinous Trap doesn't add any. Our Brainstormer and of course Lifa for when we have her out also make this backup pretty huge. And if you use it on a 1/1 Silica, even without those extra boosts, that still makes her 9/5. and that's pretty tough to get over. Alright, so compared to other level 1 lineups in SAO, this one's pretty unusual, but keep in mind, thanks to Heinous Trap in a level 3 combo, running a level 1 combo like Zekken would be a lot tougher here. So because of Standby, you change your strategy up a little bit, and I have to say, it's a nice refreshing change from the wall of Zekken, Yuki, and Determination with nothing on the line Kirito. And speaking of playing different things, let's take a look at its level 2. This is probably the only 2-2 you'll see just about anywhere in the top 8 placing decks, and she's Rhapsodic Lisbeth, a 2-2 base 6-5 that gets plus 1k for each other character on your stage. So she's a 2-2 10-5 with 2 soul, which is pretty value, even for a 2-2. And she has a pretty nice encore ability, which states that at the beginning of your encore phase, if you don't have any rested characters in your center stage, you can pay 1 and rest her. To put that in context, if your opponent mows over your front row and all your characters are reversed, you can encore her for 1 stock instead of 3. All in all, she's not a bad card at all. She's probably one of the best 2-2s out there in English, but that said, a lot of decks would still struggle to justify running her. Except this one, of course. Why? The Standby trigger. When you hit level 1, you can put this Lisbeth on the stage for free just by playing the Climax combo. It's a super strong play, and it's one of the most threatening things any deck can have on the stage at level 1 in English, period. And unlike other characters like Yami from To Love Ru, Beyond the Walls Mikatsu from AOT, Power of the Mask Darkness from Konosuba, and Oni Smile Rem from ReZero, Lisbeth will usually come out for free with no downsides. So how do you deal with her? Well, a lot of decks can't. Most of the time I get her on the stage, the only reason she leaves is if I play over her during the endgame. She's another example of a card that really found its niche in our Standby deck, and man, she fits in there like hand in glove. And you'll notice that she's our only level 2, so we're moving right on to the top end. We see 4 different characters here. 2 of them are early plays, so let's start there. Adventure with Everyone Lisbeth, one of the best early plays in the game, or at least before you saw the more disgusting ones like the Chica and Yo combo. But still, she's a powerhouse. She's 9-5, gets plus 500 for each other character, and when she comes in, you can pitch a card to heal to stock, and her early play condition is 2 or less climaxes in the waiting room. She's extremely easy to early play, she gets around anti-heal, and effectively costs 1 stock, and on top of that, she gets big and stays big through your opponent's turn. You may ask yourself, what's the point of standbying her? Well, she's not the best target to be frank, but combining standby targets like Rhapsodic Lisbeth with huge early plays like Adventure with Everyone Lisbeth makes your stage absolutely terrifying. And this is at level 2. That's why the deck combines a number of early plays with standby targets. And another early play we see in the deck is Link Strike Xenon. Her early play condition is also extremely easy to fulfill. Just have 4 or more other characters on the stage. Then, when you play her, you can draw a card and she gets plus 2k until the end of turn, and she has a restand ability. When the character in the middle position of your center stage attacks, you can pay 1 and pitch 2. If you do, put the top 3 cards of your deck into the waiting room. If there was a climax among these cards, stand this card, and she comes out at level 2. Seems real good. She basically does the same thing as Blessed with Kind Encounters Eris from Konosuba 1, where she comes out early, replaces herself, and has a restand ability. The odds of you getting off the restand are going to strongly depend on how well you refreshed, but overall, they're not bad. Combine that with all the elements of a really easy early play and a draw, and this Xenon really takes the early play cake. So as we take a look at the level 3, we see that it really serves to push the momentum that Standby gives you to bring out really threatening characters from both your hand and the waiting room. These early plays, when you combine them with your Standby combos, really create a stage that almost no one can deal with. But believe it or not, we still haven't seen the main piece of the puzzle. When we're level 2 and we're looking to Standby, what are we putting in our back row as rest when we hit that trigger? Well, the answer is Attack in Waves Asuna. This Asuna is without a doubt what ties the Standby deck together and probably the most disgusting thing you can stand by, period. She's a rare animal, a backstage level 3, but she's a powerhouse. First, she gives everything in front of her plus 2k power, so all your massive front row characters are hitting numbers in the 12k plus range even on your opponent's turn. And when the characters in front of her reverse their battle opponents, they can memory kick them. Now this is optional, so it's a tool with surgical precision, but when you take down problem cards, you can make sure they're gone for good. Being that early plays are so prevalent in the English meta, this is especially effective at dealing with them, because not only does Asuna make sure beyond the shadow of a doubt that you can mow over them, she makes sure they're gone for good, if you want them to be. So what does this look like? Well, thanks to your early plays and standby, you can end up with a stage that looks like this at level 2, and it's super easy to set up. The whole deck is made for it. Will this happen every game? No, but you can get close to it pretty consistently, and even getting close to this stage is absolutely disgusting. Just don't play against the anti-spiral. Oh man, am I super glad I wasn't the one on my regionals team that was matched against that deck. In fact, the one on our team that did play the anti-spiral was the only one on our team that wasn't actually playing any early plays, and he still managed to lose to it. I jest. But hold on, we're not even done with Asuna. She's got a lot more text on her. If you play her from your hand, she actually searches for a character for free, so she's good to stand by and good to play. But then there's the finishing combo. You know, the other half of text on her. When another one of your characters attacks, if Quest to get Excalibur is in your climax zone, you can pay 2 and pitch a card. If you do, choose another one of your characters called Attack and Waves Kirito in this card and exchange their positions. Kind of sounds like the other half of the whole. Let's take a look at him. Attack and Waves Kirito, our primary finisher. When he comes in, he heals, and if you send After the Battle Kirito to your waiting room when you play him, you can play him for free. You know, our Brainstormer. Seems really good. Also, if you have 2 or more other characters, he gets plus 1500 power and the following ability. When his battle opponent becomes reversed, you can choose another one of your characters, rest it, and move it to an open position of your backstage. Sounds kind of familiar. But why would we want to do this at level 3? Well, let me explain the Attack and Waves combo. Our primary finishing combo with these 2 characters and Quest to get Excalibur. So you put 2 Asunas in the front and 2 Kiritos in the back. I know what you're thinking, just hear me out. So you play Quest to get Excalibur and attack with one of your Asunas, probably getting her reversed. Then you attack with another character and her ability procs. You pay the cost and switch her with one of your Kiritos. Now she's still reversed, but Kirito is still benefiting from her buffs nonetheless. So you finish that attack, and when you attack with Kirito, he reverses his battle opponent because he's currently at the lowest, 13-5, and you can choose Asuna as his target and rest her. See how this works? If you watched the anime, unlike me, you'll know that this is an awesome way to demonstrate the classic switch strategy that was so central in the harder boss battles of Aincrad, and later when Kirito and Asuna were back for more in the Mother's Rosario arc, which is the arc that these cards are sourced from. What's cool about this combo though is it gets around some more popular hate. Even if you anti-damage counter one of the characters, you can still attack with the other, and neither part of the combo needs to reverse anything for it to work. Also, even if you have 2 Kiritos and 1 Asuna out, or 2 Asunas and 1 Kirito out, you can still get 5 attacks if you have enough characters. Now, this is a little cumbersome to set up correctly, but if you can master its prep, it makes for a very powerful finishing combo. Oh, and did we mention that you can get both of these characters out without paying stock? It makes the pay 2, pitch 1 cost to switch seem pretty damn reasonable if you ask me. And that's the deck. There was a lot to unpack there, but there's even more to unpack when we talk about playing with it. So instead of holding things up with a smoother transition, let's just cap out the deck list with Attack and Waves Kirito and move right into how it plays. So opening up, pitching targets is going to be essential. You want your level 3s and even some of your level 1s in your waiting room, but keep at least one of these Lisbeths in your hand. It's always your perfect turn 1 clock for red, and she'll go right to the waiting room at level 1 for the standby. Now, you can go for the slow roll, play some level 0s, use your tools and tricks with main clothes and serious business, or you can go for broke and start with standby. It's going to depend on your matchup what's going to be best, but you have the option of either starting with level 1s on the stage and drawing extra cards, or a very strong pure level 0 lineup. Neither one is bad. Hitting level 1 is money though. Now we have access to the Keikos for hand fixing and stage control, the Siligas for power, and of course, full access to Rhapsodic Lisbeth from the bin. We also get access to our free 2K backup, which can push our hard to deal with characters into the impossible to deal with range, especially the Lisbeths we're standing by. And speaking of that, the name of the game is now Standby. Standby as many times as you can and as often as you can. Try not to let them get caught in your stock though. Because we run Pants in the deck, we can always bring Heinous Trap back to our hand, and the Draw 2 Pitch 1 Brainstormer helps you grab them too. But this is also where you need to watch your waiting room. Remember, when you refresh, you'll lose all your standby targets. Setting yourself up at level 1 to make sure you're ready for your big early plays and juicy standbys at level 2 is crucial. Primarily, make sure that even through a refresh, you can set yourself up to standby an Asuna from the bin. So if you're level 2, this is the time to show the power of SAO's standby. Play a Xenon, drop a Lisbeth or 2, and pick up an Asuna from the trash, and now you're golden. At this point, don't be shy about using your Brainstorm to get more cards in your hand, because you'll need to have them to pitch for Xenon and for your final combo. If you want to do 2 switches on your final turn, you'll need at least 2 cards in your hand and 1 stock left over after you've played everything, including your climax. Not a high bar to meet, but then there's the execution part. Your attack order really matters when you carry out this combo. This seems easy on the surface, but it's really easy to mess up. Trust me, I have several times. It took me like 6 months of playing the deck to start doing this right. Now there's one other thing I'll say about this deck, and that's just to mention about its potential to just brick out. Because a lot of things have to line up for you to get your standby combo and early plays off, sometimes the deck just totally busts. You can find yourself in a position where you've triggered a few climaxes with no good targets for Pants or Standby, and you don't have too much in your hand to play at all because you couldn't discard your Standby targets. Unfortunately, in this all-or-nothing package, there aren't many tools that are help us going to recover from a rough start. The best you can do is bide your time until level 2 and try to pay out the climaxes by hard playing your Silicas and Lisbeths and hope you can get some early plays out. Remember, these things have 2 soul, so your comeback factor is big, but also remember that half your climaxes don't actually add any soul. In my experience, this happens about 1 out of 10 games, but the other 9 out of 10, the deck seriously feels like an unstoppable steamroller. So in closing, while the deck does suffer from some consistency issues, it's very powerful. The phrase Glass Cannon fits this deck perfectly. Alright players, that's about it for this deck tech. My final thoughts are just these. Standby is an awesome and powerful deck. It's super fun to play and hilariously savage when it goes off. Having played it for about a year, I'd say that while it suffers from some consistency issues, overall, the deck is extremely solid and has no bad matchups except for Anti-Spiral. I may be moving on from it soon just to play something else, but it's treated me very well for the time that it was my main squeeze. Standby is a mechanic that has a lot of potential to become super busted in the right deck. And trust me, this is the right deck. Look forward to more SAO deck techs in the future. I'm not going to run out anytime soon. But for now, it's time to tune out. So as always, thanks for watching. Peace.